yes, I thought I have to make sure I remember to record it because Elaine wants to do the class later. And last time she did this, I completely forgot to record it. So, yes, I thought we'd do a few things, just simple things in sitting, and then we'll. Oh, it's Mel. It's happy. So it's Mel's birthday, everyone. So we can say
Happy birthday. Thank you. Sorry, I'm late.
Don't worry, I'm going to mute everyone actually, so that there's no prospect of happy birthday. Okay, so yes, sitting, and so leaning back on your hands, and give your legs a little bit of a roll. So from you can do sort of side to side, and you can also do a bit sort of out and in. It doesn't really, yeah, side to side, out and in. So whatever you like. Just letting the legs, I suppose, feel as loose and free as possible. And we can also do a little bit of pointing the toes and pointing the heels. And so seeing how your ankles feel. And then, yeah, Nigel, the next one will be fine, but I think, let's see how we get on with a couple of the next ones with you. And then from here, you're going to bend, let's bend the left knee, stand the left foot on the floor. And just come to a little bit of letting your left knee tilt in and out. And see how that feels. So your foot doesn't have to be particularly close into your bottom. May make it easier if the foot isn't too close in. So let the knee rock across towards the center of your body and out to the side. More times from here, that's it. And then from here, you're going to keep leaning into your right arm and hand, and you're going to bring your left arm around the back of your left thigh. That feels okay. And Nigel, if these ones are aggravating, don't do them. Just let that leg go. And then I'd just like you to do a little bit of circling into this left ankle. Yeah, so that's it. Circle one way, circle the other way. This is where we get all those sort of clicks and clunky bits in the ankle. And then you're going to swap your arms over. So you're going to take your left arm onto the floor and lean on that, and catch the outside of your left foot with your right hand. See if that's possible. So right hand and outside of left foot, that's it. And then you're just swinging this leg a little bit from side to side. So it should be the opposite hand and foot. Good, I think that's what you've all got. Otherwise it doesn't swing so well. So just a little bit of side to side. Yeah, well done, Nigel, that's great. And then from there, you can let that leg go. Just let it lengthen out, lean back onto both arms, give your legs a little bit of a roll again. And then let the right knee bend and the right foot come to stand on the floor. Then come to a little bit of tilting your knee. That's it, from side to side. And seeing how these movements feel. And we'll be taking this onto our back in a moment and exploring this movement on our back as well. So in this one, obviously when the knee comes across towards the center of the body, it's perhaps a little bit more restricted because of the position we're in. And then keep leaning onto your left hand and bring your right arm around the back of your right thigh. So you come to this first movement where we're doing a bit of circling into our right ankle. We can circle one way, we can circle the other. And this is, yes, again, all those perhaps, I certainly feel all those sort of clicking and clunking movements, feelings in the ankle. And then you're going to swap your hands over. So the left hand's going to catch the outside of the right foot. You're going to lean onto your right arm now. So opposite hand and foot, that's it, letting the leg rock from side to side. And seeing how that movement feels. So just, you want it to feel sort of fairly easy. We're not trying to really go anywhere with this. Just a little bit of side to side. And once, twice more, and then you can let this leg go. And we're going to be coming to, we're going to do a little bit of rolling to bring us to lying down. I was just thinking, gosh, it's gone Maybe it's not cold, maybe it's just the wind, but make sure you're going to be warm enough. So from the front of your mat, we're not going to do the sort of full going into that lovely balance. We're just going to do a little bit of rolling back like this, and then in a moment we'll roll all the way down. So a little bit of sliding your hands from your feet to your knees, looking down towards your belly. And then from here, well, in a moment we will take this all the way down. So you can, in a moment you can start to go down, and as you go down, let your feet pick up. So you go all the way onto your back and fold your knees into your chest. And just hold your knees in towards your chest for a breath or two. And then you can take your arms and legs up towards the ceiling and give them a shake out. And then settle yourself on the floor with your knees bent and your feet standing on the floor. And let a breath come in, let a breath leave you. And so with your knees bent and your feet standing on the floor, just come to letting your knees tilt to the right and to the left. That's nice. So tilting your knees from side to side, seeing how this movement feels in your body right now. So a couple more times, letting the knees tilt to the right and to the left. And feeling how our body is today at this point in time, in around the pelvis, the hip joints, the lower back. And then we're going to focus our attentions into the upper part of the body. So you can either keep your knees bent and settle your feet down in the center, or if you prefer, you can lengthen your legs out on the floor. So it's really up to you. And then you're going to take your arms up towards the ceiling and interlink your fingers. So you're making a big circular shape. Yeah, not the triangle today, Linda, a big circle. So as if you're holding a beach ball on your chest. And we're going to rock from side to side across our upper back, trying to keep our circle circular. So I usually find that, I get very tight in my upper back. And when I do this circular one, it seems a little bit kinder from the upper back than the triangle, a little bit softer. And just keep rocking from side to side. Try not to let the knees move, Mel. Yeah, that's it. Good. So keep rocking side to side. Try to keep your circle circular. Keep softening in the jaw, in the front of the chest. And just notice how this feels in the upper back. So when I was doing this a little bit earlier, I just kept going from side to side. And at a certain point, everything started to soften a bit. And I felt that I was really letting go of some of that tightness. It does lurk around sort of the spine between the shoulder blades. So you can do a little bit more if that's okay. Whenever your arms are tired, bring them down to rest on the floor beside you. That's it. And when you bring your arms down, it's really nice. They can be heavy. You can feel the breath come in. You can feel the breath leave you. Maybe let another cycle of breath move through you. Let the breath come in. Let the breath leave you. And then do a little bit of tilting your knees from side to side. That's it. Good. Just revisit that, maybe just a few times. Very nice. And then what I'd like you to do is settle in the center and keep your left knee bent and lengthen your right leg out on the floor. So left knee bent, right leg on the floor. Yeah, that's it. I'll just think it'd be easier if we'd all do the same side. And come back to the movement we were doing in sitting, where you're letting just this single knee rock in and out, and see how that feels. So we might feel when we're lying on our back that there's more possibility for the knee to move in the direction sort of towards and across the body. When we're sitting, perhaps that leg is a bit restricted by our body. Good. And by what's going on in the front of the hip joint. So when we're lying, maybe everything's a little bit more passive. We can let our knee rock to the right, to the left. Feel the movement of the leg in the hip joint. Good. So a couple more times going side to side with this movement. And then pausing in the center, and as you exhale, you're going to fold that left knee into your chest and hold around the top of your knee for a couple of breaths. So feel, see how it feels to fold in through that left side and to be long and heavy through the right leg. You could, if you like, stretch into your right heel and spread your right toes. Yeah, and Nigel, if it gets aggravating, bring that foot down onto the floor. What I would like you to try from here, if it's not aggravating, is to, from holding around the top of your knee, can you bring your arms around the back of your thigh? So it's a bit like you're sort of wrapping your arms around the back of your thigh. And then from there, it might be that you keep your left hand, your left arm around the back of your thigh. And can you catch your ankle or your big toe with your right hand? And just bring the sole of the foot so it's orientated more towards the ceiling. So you've still got your thigh really close to your chest. So that's sort of number one thing. Your thigh is close to your chest. And then what's it like to bring your heel away from your bottom, bring your foot up towards the ceiling a bit more. You might catch your ankle. Some of you might catch your toe. That's it. That's nice. Good. Okay, and just have a couple of breaths there, seeing how it feels. A little bit like you're doing a lunge on your back. And then just let your heel, your left heel, come back down towards your bottom. Let that leg relax again, but keep it folded into your chest, if that's okay. And you're going to bend your right knee and bring your right foot to stand on the floor. And then from here, let your left knee come out to the side. And let your left ankle come to rest on your right thigh. So Mel, if you put your right foot on the floor, that's it, that's the one. So left ankle on the right thigh, quite close to the knee. Good. And then come to rock side to side on your standing foot, which should be your right foot. Good. So I think, yes, you think you're all there. Well done. Excellent. So well done with working all that out on a Monday morning. I don't know about anyone else, but I found it very hard to wake up and get going today. Good. That's nice. So see how it feels to rock from side to side. A few more times on that standing foot. Very nice. So once, twice more in each direction, and then settle down in the center, but keep your legs like this. And then you're going to bring your hands around the back of your head and interlink your fingers around the back of your head. And then what I'd like you to do first of all is just see how does it feel as you exhale to lift your head, gather your elbows in. So you come into that sort of, I suppose, like a little mini sit-up. And come back down again. And then what I'd like you to do is when you come up, can you bring your, let's see, what would it be? It would be your right elbow towards your left knee. That's just the movement direction. Yeah. So as you come up, you go to a bit of an angle. So as you lift your head and you come up, you're bringing your right elbow towards your left knee. That's it. You're not trying to touch. Just think about going in that direction. So it takes you into a little bit of a rotating movement, and do that a few times. So as you exhale, lifting your head and you come up and you're bringing that right, so you're lifting and you're turning a little bit to the left. That's it. Good. Very nice. You do that once or twice more. Lovely. And then let that go. Uncross your legs. You might want to lengthen both legs out on the floor now. Or you might want to take both legs up to the ceiling. Yeah. Very nice. Good. Good. Let a breath come in, let a breath leave you. And then eventually end up. So you've got your left leg long on the ground, you've got your right knee bent and your right foot standing on the floor. Brilliant. And then start to rock side to side on that right foot. So explore the movement on this side. So we're doing everything on side 2 now. Let your right knee rock to the right and to the left. Seeing how that feels in the right hip joint. Lovely. Very nice. So perhaps again, when we're lying, this movement can be just a bit easier, this sort of nice, sort of lazy, easy rocking of the leg from side to side. And then pausing in the middle, let a breath come in. As the breath leaves you, let that right knee fold into your chest and hold around the top of your knee with your hands. Yeah, or you could wrap your arms around the back of your thigh to start with, Linda. Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. So first of all, we're just thinking about that folding of the right knee into the chest. We could be stretching into the left heel, spreading the left toes, and then let the left leg be heavy. And then if and when you're ready, might be that the right hand, you could take your arms around the back of your thigh, and then maybe the right arm stays there. You use the left hand to catch your ankle, your big toe, your foot, to just explore bringing the foot towards the ceiling a little bit. So we have this, very nice everyone. So it's this feeling of being perhaps in a lunge on your back. That's it, lovely. Very nice, good. And have a few breaths so you can move in and out of that one. And then from there, you can let your heel relax down towards your bottom. Keep that right knee folded into your chest and bend your left knee and stand the left foot on the floor. So now that's it. The right knee goes out to the side, the right ankle's on the left thigh, close to the knee. That's it, great. And then you're going to rock side to side on your standing foot. And see how this feels. So this is quite a nice twisting movement. We can maybe feel this movement coming into our rib cage. So the pelvis and the legs are moving side to side. We might notice how our low ribs come along with this movement. And keep the shoulders nice and heavy and settled on the floor. Good. You can carry on if you like a bit of rocking from side to side. And then whenever you like, it's that folding in with, so stopping in the center, bringing your hands around the back of your head, interlinking your fingers. So when I was doing this first of all, so lifting the head, I was just lifting up in the center, maybe once or twice before you start to do that. That's it, bringing your left elbow to your right knee. So maybe a couple of times as you lift your head when you exhale, come up in the center. So this feeling of curling up in the upper body. Middle of the back presses onto the floor. And then try the diagonal movement. So when you're going, as you come up, yes, I would probably keep the foot standing on the floor, Linda, maybe. That's it, yeah. Good. So you're bringing now, it's your left elbow is traveling in the direction of your right knee. And you do that a few times. I always find this one quite challenging. So we're both lifting up in the upper body and we're also turning a little bit towards the right. So do that once or twice more and then let it go. Good. So let that one go now. Good. You can, that's it, uncross your legs. You could lengthen your legs out on the floor or in this up to the ceiling. Good. Quite nice to let yourself lie long for a moment. Let the breath come in, let the breath leave you. So in a moment, I was going to suggest, Nigel, you might prefer not to fold your knees into your chest. I was going to suggest folding your knees into your chest, doing a little bit of rocking from side to side on your back. And Nigel, you could do a bit of rocking with your feet on the floor. Yeah, or if you're folding your knees in is fine. So just a little bit of rocking with your knees folded in towards you. And then we're going to be rolling all the way over onto one side. And we're going to come sit in cobbler pose. And then just do a very little bit of hands and knees before we come into standing. So Mel, I kept thinking that was Otter behind you, but it's not Otter, is it? It's a blanket or something. So... Oh, there's Otter. Okay, pleased to see her. Hello, Otter. So yes, when you've made your way over off your backs, I just wanted you to briefly come into cobbler pose and just see how it feels at this point in time. Do we revisit this? I'm not sure. So yeah, so just, it could be leaning back on your hands. We've done quite a few things around the pelvis and into the hip joints. So you might feel reasonably comfortable in cobbler pose. So yes, you could be leaning here. You could be holding your feet. Yeah, you could do, some of you are doing that. You could do a bit of rocking from side to side, depending how that feels. So it's really, yeah, you could be rocking with your hands behind you. We could also do a bit of this leaning one that I rather like. So leaning from side to side. And we can also add in a little side lengthening movement. Very nice. So in a moment from here, we're going to come on to hands and knees. We're just going to do a little bit of cat, and then we're going to do a dog pose, and we're going to come up into standing and do some things in standing. So to lean back onto your hands once more, maybe just give your legs a little lengthen out before we come on to hands and knees. So when you're ready, making your way over onto hands and knees, just a little visit to cat. So settle down with your hands under your shoulders, your knees under your hips. And yeah, how does it feel to do a few cat movements today? If you feel that you'd like to do some tail wagging movements, you are most welcome. You want to add those in. So if there's anything you feel that, you know, we've arrived on hands and knees, your body really needs today, then please do that. And then from here, when you're ready, you're going to be tucking your toes under. So from hands and knees, tucking your toes under, let a breath come in. As you exhale, rock your hips back over your heels, picking your knees up off the floor, seeing how your dog pose feels. Have a few breaths here. So this is our sort of first dog pose. We'll be doing a bit more dog pose later. It might feel a bit creaky, that's fine. Just breathing, bending one knee, bending the other, bending both. Couple more breaths in dog pose, and then when you're ready from your dog, you're going to be walking your hands in towards your feet into a forward bend. And again, just all the time noticing, how does your body feel? What can you do to make sure these movements are comfortable and you're not putting any strain on yourself? So in your forward bend, if you need to rest your elbows on your thighs, you can always do that. See if you can really let your head go and hang. And then whenever you're ready, from your forward bend, sinking into your heels, rolling up into standing. So arrive in standing on our mats. Let's just take a little moment and look at the feet, feel ourselves in standing. Yes, I can see lots of layers being thrown away, so that's it's obviously not as cold as it might feel. I think it's just after the heat last week. Let's do this one. Let's swing our arms. So we're going to do a few things in standing, sort of twisty, side lengthening things, a little bit of balancing. And then back down onto hands and knees. That's nice. So you can sort of enjoy this nice sort of expansive movement for the body. Couple more times, swinging the arms. And then settling down, have a look at your feet, feet hip width apart and parallel. Letting a breath come in as you exhale, bring your arms up. And you're going to do a bit of that reaching up into one arm and then the other. So as you reach, shifting your weight into one leg, so into the reaching. So the reaching arm, you shift into that leg. So a little bit from side to side. And then eventually from here in a moment, we're going to go back down. We're going to sweep back down into another forward bend and see how that feels. So let a breath come in the center and then sweep your arms all the way down. Obviously bending your knees, resting your elbows on your thighs if that feels better for your lower back. And bend the knees as much as you like. Just see how this forward bend feels. Can you let your head go? Can you let your arms go? Can you feel your spine tumbling forwards? Letting a breath come in as you exhale, rolling back up into standing. And when you come back into standing, just bring your hands onto the rim of your pelvis. So we're going to do these little twists where we now don't move from here downwards. And then bring your hands onto your low ribs and that's it, and turn the rib cage and the shoulders and the head from side to side. So we could also do that with the hands on the shoulders. Good. Shoulders are turning. And we can also do that with trying not to turn from the waist down. We can also do it with the fingers on the crown of the head. So again, we're just trying to feel that from the waist up, everything is turning a little to the right, a little to the left. It all might feel a bit strange that we're trying to move part of ourselves and not the other parts. But we also might feel quite a lot going on. Good. In the rib cage. Okay. Release your arms and come back to letting everything move. I just want to adjust my screen, so I think my head is being cut off more than maybe it's no bad thing. So, yeah, so swinging your arms. Good, slapping your arms onto your body. A couple more times. Lovely. And then we'll let this one go for the moment. We'll settle our feet back down again, hip width apart and parallel. As you breathe in, take your arms wide out to your sides. As you exhale, you're going to give yourself a hug with your right arm on top. So if you do have your right arm on top, you're just not going to have to think about this. Think about the arms anyway. And then from here, come on into your eagle arms. Let your shoulders drop down. So I'd like you to repeat that little twist again we did, where we're not moving below the waist. So we're turning our shoulders, our arms and our head. A little bit to the right, a little bit to the left. You can always leave your head in the center if you don't like the sort of turning of the head in this one. That's It's fully possible. And then we're going to take this into a forward bend by stepping the feet a bit wider, so they're as wide as the narrow edge of the mat. Sinking into your heels, exhaling, folding forwards, using that weight of the crossed arms to help lengthen out your spine a little bit more, depending how that feels. And whenever you want to, you can also release your arms to the floor. And just let the arms be floppy. Keep your weight rooted into your heels. Good. So if you haven't let your arms go, I think you all have. That's nice, as much as I can see. So let your arms go if you haven't. Let a breath come in as you exhale, roll back up into standing. Keep your feet as wide as the narrow edge of the mat, so we can do some of these side lengthening movements. So I think last week, or it might have been the week before, it's all starting to merge into one, we were doing these where first of all we just experience the movement, so how it feels in the body. And then we can start thinking about moving with our breath. So maybe as we come into the side lengthening movement, we exhale, or we breathe in. You can try both. And then finally, we stay in this movement for a cycle or two of breath, and we feel the breath moving through us. So maybe as we inhale, we feel even more of this stretch through the side. And as we exhale, we can soften. So doing that on both sides, where you stay for a cycle or two of breath. And then coming back to the center, having a shake out. So we have these different possibilities of how we, I suppose, utilize our breath when we're moving. So come back to feet being hip width apart. So we can just let our breath do our own thing, which we do a lot. So here I always say sort of breathe in, take your arms wide. So that's coordinating the movement in the breath. Exhale, hug yourself with the left arm on top. And then from here, you can come on into your cow arms. And so again, here, the focus is very much on the movement. We're trying not to move from the waist down as we take our arms to the right and to the left. So we do this little rotation here. And again, you could be focusing on moving as you breathe, but I suppose the main focus here is on the movement. Choose to make that difference. And then we can pause in the center, let a breath come in and fold forwards on the exhalation. And have a few breaths in the forward bend. So perhaps once we're in the forward bend, it's about really feeling our breath. We can let our arms go whenever we like. So in the forward bend, feeling our breath. So how does it feel when you breathe in? Maybe the body, that's feeling the body expanding. Maybe you feel you come a little bit out away from the forward bend. And as you exhale, perhaps that's when you sink into your heels, you feel that you fold a little bit more. So have another cycle of breath there. And then when you're ready, sinking into your heels, rolling up into standing. Keeping the feet wide so we can just come back to these side lengthening movements again. And in your own time, just maybe be aware of those differences. So we can be moving, just letting our breath, of course we carry on breathing, letting our breath do its own thing. We can think about moving with the breath. Either coming into the side lengthening movement with an in-breath or with an out-breath. And we can think about staying in the side lengthening movement and receiving a cycle of breath or two. Feeling the breath come in. As the breath leaves us, it's a really good time to give away that bottom arm. And on the other side, giving away the bottom arm as you exhale, maybe feeling this sort of width and length through the side of the body as you breathe in. And then coming back to the center, having a little bit of a shake out. So we're going to do a few feet things now, and then we're going to come into some standing balances. So, see my own feet. So what you're going to do first of all is choose one foot to work with, and we're going to do all these few things on the one foot first of all. So I'm working with my right foot, so what I'm going to start with is rolling onto the outer edge of that foot. So rolling towards the outer edge of the right or the left foot, whichever one you've chosen to work with, a few times, and see how that feels. And then we're going to bring that foot, same foot, forwards a little bit and do this tapping movement. So this one is very good for just sort of dropping ourselves down into our feet. If we keep the pelvis facing forwards and we tap the foot in this little semicircle or third of a circle, we're also moving into the hip joint. And then bring the foot back in, come up onto the ball of the foot, and now you're trying to roll across the ball of your foot. So it's a bit of a massage for the ball of the foot. Base of the big toe to the base of the little toe. How does that feel? For me, this gets into lots of my creaky, clunky, tight places. Good. And then we come back to the first movement, the rolling onto the outer edge of the foot, and we see how that feels. So this is just giving our feet a little bit of a massage. And then we move on to the other foot. We start to roll onto the outer edge of that foot. And I always think, oh gosh, it feels really stiff in comparison. Sorry, I'm just going to get someone to answer that. Jenny, could you answer the front door, love? Okay, sorry, hold on. Sorry everyone, it's the postman. So rolling onto the outer edge of your foot. And my daughter, who I always make do everything, is on a webinar herself, thank goodness. So rolling onto the outer edge of your other foot. And then bringing that foot forwards, doing a bit of your foot tapping. So maybe hands on the pelvis stays facing forwards. You tap your foot in that little semicircle, semi-third of a circle. Good. And then we bring the foot back a bit, we come up onto the ball of the foot. And so this massaging across the ball of the foot, base of the big toe to the base of the little toe. See how that feels. It's really a chance to sort of get into some of these rather knotty, tight places. Well, that's how they always feel in my feet. Good. Side to side on that second ball of the foot. And then a little bit of rolling onto the outer edge of that second foot and see how that feels. I'm always a bit reassured. It always feels a bit less stiff than it did at the beginning. So let's take these feet now into a couple of balances. Let's maybe just to start with, close the eyes and feel your feet on the floor. Do a little bit of swaying from side to side. Feel your weight over one foot, your weight over the other. That's nice. So you're just going to make this choice at this point about which foot you're going to stand on. And we're going to do this little sequence. Maybe if I just very briefly show you, which you'll know. This little sequence of mini balances where we come back with the foot, then we bring the foot to tree pose, and then we bend the standing knee, we cross the other leg over the top. So that little sequence. So when you've decided which foot you're going to stand on, you're going to shift your weight onto your standing foot. Just let your arms hang by your sides. Come up onto the ball of the other foot and then start to slide those toes back behind you. And you can flip onto the top of your toes. And then you can see what it's like to straighten that back knee a little bit more. You're trying to keep quiet through the front ribs and soften the front of the body. Good, straightening that back knee. And then let that foot slide back in. Let your knee turn out to the side a bit so your foot can come onto the ankle of the standing leg. You could have some toes on the floor at this point. So a little mini tree pose, see how that feels. Let the breath come in, let the breath leave you. And then bring your toes back onto the floor as you bend your standing knee. So the standing knee is now bending and we're crossing the raised leg over. So we're trying to keep our shoulders over our hips here and not lean forwards. You can bring your hands into prayer pose. You could have your big toe on the floor. That's fine if you need that for an extra bit of stability. Have a couple of breaths here. Good, yes. And then come and have a little shake out. And we'll try side 2 now. I'll just go sideways on there, you know what you're doing. So bringing your weight onto the other foot now. Come onto the ball of the foot you just stood on, slide those toes back behind you. How is it to flip onto the top of the toes? How is it to straighten that back knee? But keep quiet. You might bring one hand onto your low ribs or belly. Straighten the back knee, but keep quiet in the front of your body. And then slide your toes back in. Let the knee turn out to the side a little bit, coming into your mini tree pose with your foot on your ankle. And yes, of course, some of you at this point are putting your hands into prayer pose. Of course, you can do that. That might be quite a helpful thing. Have a couple of breaths here in your little mini tree pose. And then bring your toes back on to the floor so you can bend your standing knee. So we're trying to bend the standing knee, but keep the shoulders over the hips and cross the other leg over that bent knee. You might have your big toe on the floor if you like, and then the hands into prayer pose for a couple, 2 or 3 more breaths. Feel the breath come in, feel the breath leave you. Good. And then, a bit of a shake out of arms and legs. So we're going to come into one more tree pose. So again, this is going to be a tree pose of your choice. So it might be that you want to come back into this mini tree pose and just stay there a little bit longer, or your foot could come higher up. So either your heel above your knee or your heel coming right up towards the top of your thigh. So maybe just take a moment, feeling both feet on the floor, perhaps closing your eyes, feeling the breath come in, feeling the breath leave you. So we'll come back to our first standing foot again. So at this point, you probably want to open your eyes. You definitely want to open your eyes. Find a point to focus your gaze on. Start to rock your weight into your foot. We're doing a balance with cat. So very nice. So rocking your weight onto your standing foot. Bringing the other foot to wherever you're going to bring it onto the inside of your standing leg. And let the hands come first of all into a quiet prayer pose. Letting the shoulders drop. Feeling the movement of the breath through your body. And if you want to, if you're holding a cat, taking your arms up and wide, letting your shoulders drop. Still feeling that flow of the breath through your body. Jaws soft. And then from here, you can bring the hands back down into prayer pose in front of your chest. If you can have another cycle or two of breath here. Good, and come down, have a little bit of a shake out. So I thought I won't say it on that side where you're trying to balance, but on this side of tree pose, once you're settled in tree pose, think about smiling, and I don't mean a sort of huge Cheshire cat grimace, just a soft smile, because that helps relax everything. So, shifting your weight onto side 2, giving yourself a moment to settle there, and then whenever you're ready, you bring the other foot off the floor. So it's this process of organising ourselves, settling below the waist, bringing the hands into prayer pose. And at this point, this might be the point to just think about this very soft smile. And when we see statues of the Buddha, the statues often have this very soft smile, with the lips just touching very lightly. And from here, if we're steady, the arms can come out, wide and up. You still keep this soft smile, which brings a quality of softness and lightness to the face and to the whole of the posture. Okay. And from here, you can gather the hands into prayer pose. Another breath or two. Good, yes, well done. Coming back down, having a shake out. So we're going to come to the backs of our mats, and we're going to come down from through. I'm just looking at my notes to remind myself, through forward bend dog pose and onto hands and knees. So take a moment to arrive at the back of your mat, to settle your feet down, to let a breath come in. And then when you're ready, start to look down at your feet, start to roll down, let your arms hang. Give the weight of your shoulders down to the floor, the weight of your head. And then when you're ready, start to walk your hands forwards into dog pose. So forward bend, walking into dog pose. See how that dog pose feels. Nice big handprints on the floor. So yes, forward bend, walking into dog pose, a few breaths in dog pose, bending your knees as much as you like. And then coming down onto hands and knees and settling yourself on hands and knees. And what I wanted us to do on hands and knees is this twisting movement. We did these a few weeks ago. So where we slide one arm underneath, so the side of our head comes onto the floor, and we can also then bring the other arm up or towards our back. So you can move on into that, yes. Thread the needle, this one is sometimes called. So just make sure when you're on the side of your head that feels comfortable. Good. Good, and you can see what it's like to bring your top arm up, and you can also bring that top hand onto the back of your pelvis. And this one, I've been thinking a lot about twists really, which are helpful. And this one I do find is quite helpful for really moving me in the rib cage, letting those ribs move. And then obviously you come down by bringing your arm back down, planting your hand on the floor, pressing down into your hand, coming back to hands and knees. And then you can try the same thing on the other side. So sliding your arm under, The side of the head comes down onto the floor. You need to make sure that feels comfortable in your neck. If it doesn't, keep your top hand. Yeah, so if you're not entirely happy with your neck in that position, don't take the hand off the floor. Keep the hand on the floor. Good. If the neck feels fine, you can take your arm up towards the ceiling. Yes, and Nigel, when you come out of it, you can come back into dog pose. So when you've done that little twist on each side, you can come back onto hands and knees. And then my brain always really needs to come into dog pose after that to feel a bit more, yeah, understanding where my body is. So coming back into dog pose from hands and knees. Have a bit of a lengthen out in dog. See how that dog pose feels. Good, exactly. Bending one knee, bending the other knee, resting into your big hand prints. Letting the breath come in, letting the breath leave you. Very nice. When you come down from this dog pose, when you bring your knees onto the floor, you're then going to lie all the way down onto your belly. And you can bring your forehead onto the back of your hands. So see how it feels to lie onto your belly. Give your pelvis a bit of a wiggle. Once you've given your pelvis a bit of a wiggle, just have a couple of breaths lying on your belly. See how it feels to let the breath come in, let the breath leave you. When we lie on our belly like this, it encourages us to breathe into the back ribs, into the back part of our lungs, which are actually bigger than the front part of our lungs. And we're going to do some of those little lifting movements for the head. So you can either keep your forehead on the back of your hands or slide your hands a little bit further forwards away from you on the floor. And then seeing how it feels, that simple movement of exhaling. And as you exhale, lifting your head away from your hands or away from the floor and trying to feel that the muscles in your upper back are part of this movement. That's very nice. So how far down the spine can we feel this movement traveling? As we, yes, that's it. Sink into the forearms, sink into the elbows, lift the head on an exhalation. Good. And you either come back down as you breathe in, or you could see what's it like to lift your head as you exhale, and then stay supporting your head and receive an in-breath. And come back down on the next exhalation. So you could try that for 2 or 3 cycles. So staying with your head raised and receiving an in-breath. Good. So this little movement is so useful and important for helping us to keep the muscles in the upper back working effectively. Good. That's nice. Lovely. So make this the last little lifting movement you're doing. And then when you bring your head back to the floor, if you're still happy on your belly, you could bend your knees and bring the soles of your feet towards the ceiling and do that tilting side to side movement with your feet. We are from here going to be going on into child pose. So if you feel that you need to come off your belly now and go into child, you can. But I know some of you quite like this movement, so lovely. Good. And whenever, you've got a choice really, whenever you're ready to come off your belly, you can fold in child pose. If you're happier on your belly, you can stay there for a few more breaths. But and if you prefer to be in kneeling rather than child, that is also an option. So wherever you are, on your belly, in child pose, in kneeling, just maybe feel another couple of cycles of breath move through you. Feel the breath coming in, your body expanding, feeling the breath leaving you, your body settling, softening. And then we're going to be coming on into lunge. So from wherever you are, bring yourself probably onto hands and knees so that you can bring one foot forwards into lunge. Doesn't matter which foot, because we'll be doing both sides. I'm just thinking, no, I don't think it matters which foot. So have a few breaths in this lunge where you've got your foot in between your hands, because then I would like you to do the lunge where you walk your foot out to the side and your hands come onto the inside of your foot. And here, where some of you may need, see if is it possible to have the flats of your hands on the floor, so your arms are a little bit like plank pose. Because then, if you wanted to, you could tuck your back toe under and let your back knee come off the ground. So this is a sort of lunge variation, which is, I suppose, also a bit like half a plank pose if you've got your hands down. Have a couple of breaths there. So it's a much stronger stretch through the front of the back leg, thigh and groin. You might not want to stay there too long. And then from there, you can let your back knee come down and you can ease back out of lunge. So untucking the back toe and rocking back. So that's it. So sort of easing back. I'm not sure about easing back. I think that's it. And then we'll swap from hands and knees, we'll swap sides on lunge. So we'll bring the other foot forwards. So we can start off with the foot in between the hands, having a few breaths here, seeing how that feels. Back toes can be tucked under or flat. So again, as we all know, this is all about the sort of opening up through the front of the pelvis, the front of the back hip joint, back leg hip joint. And then that front foot can walk over to the side. We can bring our hands onto the inside of the front foot. This is when we start to think about the hands being a bit more like plank pose, arms. Hands planted on the floor. This is where you could have your hands on books if they don't touch. And when you're doing this, see if the hands can be, as in plank pose, shoulder width apart. So not too close together. Tucking your toe under if you like in your back leg, letting the back knee come off the floor if you want to do that delightful one. For a couple of breaths, and do feel that you can use your arms to help support some of your weight. That takes a little bit of the pressure off the front of the pelvis. Have a couple of breaths there. And then let that back knee come back down to the ground. Untuck your back toe and ease back. Here. And then we're going to do another lunge variation in a moment, but first of all, I'd like you to come and have a bit of lengthen out in dog pose again. It's a nice big wide handprints on the floor, tucking your toes under, exhaling, rocking your hips back and up, coming into your dog pose, letting your head go, having a few breaths in dog. Very nice. Now, you can either do this from hands and knees or from dog pose. You're going to bring your first foot back forwards into lunge. If you can't remember which, I'm sure you can remember which your first foot was. It's not that much to remember, so, but it doesn't really matter too much. So you've brought your first foot back into lunge. We're going to do a lunge twist now. So you want to keep the hand, the opposite hand to foot on the floor, because we're going to be turning towards that front leg. In fact, I think if I swap sides, it will make more sense. So, and again, this is where you could, if you wanted to have the flat of your hand on the floor and it doesn't reach, you could put a book under your hand. So flat of the hand on the floor, starting to turn towards, Back toes tucked under, I think, turning towards your front leg. Your hand comes onto the back of your pelvis. Now, this may be enough, but if you would like to go further, there's further options. So again, you could be tucking the back toe under, letting the back knee come off the ground. And then I was in this one, take the arm forwards. So there's this long length from the fingertips to the back heel. We're trying to maintain the turn, turning towards that front leg. Good. Reaching forwards with the fingers of the top arm. Lovely. For a couple of breaths. Not the easiest place to breathe in. And then, yes, making our way down. And again, you might like to ease back before we do side two. So easing back, looking down at the floor, letting the back of the neck release. And then swapping sides. I'm going to turn around. So bring the other foot forwards. So we want to organise ourselves first into a lunge. If the hand can come flat on the floor, I think that's quite helpful. But if you like to be on your knuckles or your fingertips, that's equally fine. So the first thing is this turning towards the front leg. How does that feel? So when we think about in this lunge, it's a lunge twist. So we want to try and maintain this twist if we take the back knee off the ground, if we reach our arm forwards. So yes, if you want to, the back knee comes off the ground, toes tucked under. And if you're taking your top arm forwards, you're still trying to keep turning, facing that front leg. Long from your fingertips to your back heel. Letting the breath come in, letting the breath leave you to your best ability here. And then letting that back knee come down, untwisting. And we're going to go once more into dog pose. So you could go straight from your lunge, or you could bring your hands, yes, if you're easing back, that's absolutely fine. You could bring your hands onto your knee back, so you're on hands and knees. Tucking your toes under, coming up into dog pose, having a few quiet breaths in dog. And from this dog, folding down either into child pose or kneeling. That's very nice, letting the head go. So settling down, child pose or kneeling. Let the hands, if you're kneeling, you could let your hands rest on your thighs with your palms up. Palms up or down. Palms up is quite nice to let the palms soften. If you're in child pose, just think about the wrists being relaxed, the hands being soft and relaxed. Let the breath come in, let the breath leave you. Going to do a little bit in a moment of moving towards our face up dog on hands. From a long hands and knees. So the first thing would be that if you're in child pose, it could be that you plant your hands down, you come up onto hands and knees. If you're in kneeling, come onto this long hands and knees position. And then first of all, it might just be these sort of rather, we say tentative, but these exploratory movements of what's it like today to start to rock the pelvis forwards. How are the wrists finding this? How is the lower back feeling? So it might be that you can, after all those lunges, that you feel quite happy for your pelvis to come forwards to face up dog. It might be that you want to find a bit more length in your lower back, which you could do by tucking your toes under, rounding your back to the ceiling, rocking your hips back over your heels, and then traveling forwards into your face up dog, rounding your back, into your face up dog. Just, in your own time, perhaps once or twice more, moving into face up dog. If you haven't done coming into it, rounding your back, it might really feel quite nice. So rounding your back, traveling into face up dog, looking at your pelvis so that lower back has lots of length when we eventually let the pelvis go into face up. And again, do one more if you like, otherwise folding child pose or kneeling. Very nice. Very nice face up dogs, everyone. Beautiful. Yes, good. Looks so nice. Lovely. Let's have a couple of quiet breaths in child pose or kneeling, letting the hands and the wrists sort of settle, relax, ease out. Letting the breath come in, letting the breath leave you. So we're going to do a little sequence, which is something I sort of, when I was doing some practice yesterday, I remembered that I taught a very long time ago. But it puts together some familiar movements, but maybe takes them in a slightly different direction. So from hands and knees, I'm just seeing whether we need to. Yeah, from hands and knees, you're going to bring your right knee forwards. So you're coming into this pigeon variation where we start off with the heel under its own buttock. So the one where we're on our elbows and we're rocking our pelvis side to side over our heel. Yeah. So rather than going straight into pigeon, we're doing some of this side to side rocking. So the pelvis moves to the inside of the heel and to the outside of the heel, as long as our knee is happy with that. Again, I'll come and have a little. Good. That's nice. Lovely. And then from doing this movement, we let ourselves come all the way into pigeon. So you would want to then roll your pelvis towards the outside of your heel and maybe slide your foot over a little bit towards the back leg. And then just see if you can settle yourselves into pigeon. At that point, you might then need to roll your pelvis back over so the pelvis is level, and have a few breaths in pigeon. Down on your elbows, I think. Unless there's some other position for your arms you'd really like to do today. Good. So a few breaths in pigeon, seeing how that feels. Letting the breath come in, letting the breath leave you. And then from here, we're going to roll onto that outside, that thigh, so the right thigh. And we're going to swing this back leg around. Well, we're going to swing this back leg so it comes forwards. Lean back on your hands and bend your right, your right knee's bent, stand your right foot on the floor and lean back onto your hands for a moment. Now from here, in a minute, we're going to lie down, but first of all, I'd just like you to try turning, so you can hold around your bent right leg, turning away from that leg, just for a breath or two, and also turning towards that leg and seeing how that feels. And do use your fingertips behind you to help support your spine. And then from here, you're going to use your hands. Keep your legs, so your right knee's bent, your left leg is long, and you're going to lower yourself down so you lie onto your back. Now, if like me, you sort of ended up off the top of your mat, and that's not terribly comfy, you can obviously shuffle down your mat a little bit. So we're on our backs with our right knee bent and our left leg long. Let your arms settle on the floor. Let your head roll a little bit to the right and to the left. And then settling your head in the centre, you're going to come to that pressing movement into your right foot. So seeing how does it feel as you exhale to press down into your right foot, to let your pelvis tilt over towards the left. And do that a few times, that's nice. Good. So as you do this, remember to keep sending your right knee over your right footprint. Good. Lovely. And then you can add in the variation where you give yourself a hug with your right arm on top. So now as you press into your right foot, you also roll across the back of your shoulders towards the left shoulder, and your right fingers can reach out on the floor over to the left. That's it. I think you all know this one. And your head rolls to the left as well. Very nice. So we've got that feeling that the whole of our weight is now shifting towards the left as we press into our right footprint. Roll across the upper back. That's nice. Do this a couple more times. Then you can uncross your arms. Let the arms rest on the floor, lengthen your right leg out for a moment. Feel yourself long on the ground, from the crown of your head through to your heels. Let a breath come in, let a breath leave you. And then you're going to hug your knees in towards your chest. So fold your knees in towards your chest. And do a little bit of rocking from side to side, because of course we need to come over and do all of that little sequence, starting with our rocking pigeon variation with our left leg forwards. So from rocking side to side on your back, rock all the way over onto one side, and then come back onto hands and knees. So I'm thinking that it's probably quite good that I said I was specific about your lefts and rights, so you don't have to think about it. So bring your left knee forwards. So your left heel is under your left buttock to start with. You're down onto your forearms. You're doing this rocking side to side of your pelvis. So the pelvis rocks to the inside and then the outside of your heel. And you're just seeing how this feels. And from this side to side rocking movement, you can go on into pigeon. So you can let your pelvis rock down to the outside of your left heel. You then might want to slide your foot over towards the right a little bit more. Maybe your knee needs to move a little bit towards the left. Can you let your pelvis roll around so your pelvis is in the center, the back of your pelvis is level? Can you have a few breaths on your forearms in pigeon, letting the breath come in, letting the breath leave you. And then from here, roll over onto that front leg thigh. So your weight's on your left, top of your left thigh, your left leg, and then swing your right leg forward. So you're going to lengthen out your right leg, lean back on your hands and stand your left foot on the floor. It's quite interesting, isn't it? When we started off, at the beginning of class, we were in a very similar position to this, where we were rocking our knee from side to side. But what we're going to do now is, again, that little twist where we can turn away from our bent leg, for a couple of breaths. And we can turn towards our bent leg for a couple of breaths. And we're going to be lying down, obviously lying down, not getting up. That sounds a bit ominous. We're going to be lying down now and staying down. So if you did want to put a warm top on before you lower yourself down to lie down now, you could do, or have it to hand. And then coming back to the center, use your hands, gently lower yourself down onto your back. You've got your left knee bent, your left foot standing on the floor, your right leg is long. Take a moment to arrive. Again, you could do a little bit of rolling of your head to the right and to the left. And then when you're ready, you're coming into your foot pressing. So pressing your left foot onto the floor, letting your pelvis tilt over towards the right. Maybe coordinating the pressing with exhaling if that's helpful for you. So you're sending your left knee forwards over your left foot. Whenever you like, you can add in the variation where you cross your arms over your chest, your left arm on top. And then you're rocking across your upper back as well as pressing into your left foot. Your right fingertips are reaching out on the floor. No, your left fingertips are reaching out on the floor to the right. I think you all know what you're doing, so best I don't confuse you. Good. Your head rolls to the right. That's very nice. So once or twice more. And then settling in the center, uncrossing your arms. Just lengthening your legs out for a moment if you like. So in a moment when you've had a breath or two lying with your legs long, maybe bouncing your knees, rolling your legs, we're just going to come and do a little bit of bridge pose. So bending the knees, standing both feet on the floor. So really feeling your footprints on the floor and then seeing how it feels to sink into your feet, to let the pelvis and some of your spine pick up off the floor. Sending the knees forwards over the feet. A couple of times rolling up and down into bridge pose. And then you could do a couple, when you've done a couple of just normal bridge poses, you could do a couple where you alternate bridge pose with interlinking your hands around the back of your head and lifting your head. So you come into that sort of little mini sit-up, you lift your head and you also tilt your pelvis towards your head, your face. So the middle of your back presses on the floor, and then you release your head, you come back and release your arms, come back into bridge pose. And see how it feels. And then you can try that again. And there is and Nigel, probably not for you, but there is a further variation where you could fold your knees into your chest. So pick your feet up off the floor and then you gather the knees towards the elbows and you stretch into your heels. Stretch into your heels when you're doing that. That's it. Yeah. So you sort of gather up into a little smaller ball. Really round through the back of the body, gathered up in the front of the body, and then again move into bridge pose and let the front of your body open. Good. So we've got these sort of little pairs of movements. The front of the body opens in bridge, and then when we lift the head, and yes, we gather up, front of the body is gathered up. So you can do that once, those little pairs once more. The little sit-up variation, either with the feet on the floor or picking the feet up off the floor. And then a bridge pose. And perhaps finishing with the pelvis on the ground and a little bit of tilting your knees to the right and to the left. So we're going to finish with a little bit of breathing lying down. We're going to, do a few different things, some movement of the arms and the hands and the mudra that I was playing around with yesterday and quite enjoyed. So settle comfortably on your back, either knees bent or legs long. And rest your arms on the floor beside you. So we're going to start by moving one arm. Let's maybe say the right arm with the breath. So as you breathe in, you're going to turn your right palm up towards the ceiling. As you breathe out, turn your palm down towards the floor. So just the right arm to begin with, turning the palm up as you breathe in, turning the palm down as you breathe out. It doesn't really matter if your breath is the other way round, but we just want to coordinate the movement of the hand with the in and the out breath. So we turn the hand down as the breath leaves us. We turn the hand up as the breath comes in, or vice versa is fine. And carry on with that for a few more cycles of breath. And then finishing up, so the back of your right hand is resting on the floor. And you're going to bring your attention into the hand. And as you're going to touch, first of all, your thumb and your little finger. And you're going to have a cycle of breath. So when the thumb touching the little finger, let a breath come in, let a breath leave you. And then move on to touching the thumb to the ring finger, letting a breath come in, letting a breath leave you. And then to the middle finger, letting a breath come in, letting a breath leave you. And to the index finger. And in your own time, go back down through the fingers to the little finger. So you have a cycle of breath, an in breath and an out breath, touching the thumb to the pads of each of the fingers. And then let that hand rest and soften. And then in your own time, you're coming to letting your left arm roll on the floor. So as you breathe in, your left hand palm turns up. As you breathe out, your left palm turns down. And try and let the arm roll as much. So the movement is fluid and you're keeping as much contact of the hand and the arm and the wrist on the floor as possible. So breathing in, the palm turns up. Breathing out, the palm turns down. So a couple more cycles of breath. Breathing in, the palm turns up. Breathing out, the palm turns down. Or if you're going the other way, it's absolutely fine. And ending up, so the back of your hand is resting on the floor. And then coming to those movements. So we start by touching the thumb to the pad of the little finger, letting a breath come in, letting a breath leave. And then touching the thumb to the pad of the ring finger, letting a breath come in, letting a breath leave. Touching the thumb to the pad of the middle finger. And then on to the index finger. And then finger by finger back to the little finger. The thumb and the finger touch, you feel a breath come in, you feel a breath leave. You reach the thumb and the little finger touching once more. Have your cycle of breath and then just let the hands soften and relax for a moment. And I'm just going to see how it feels to finish our lying down with a mudra. We'll do this in both hands. So you bring your thumb across your palm towards the base of your little finger or your ring finger, little finger, ring finger. And then you wrap your four fingers around your thumb. So it's like you're making these little fists. So the fingers are wrapped around your thumb. And yeah, you want to then rest. You can either rest your hands on the floor. You could have them palms up. I quite like them palms down. Or you could rest your hands on your belly with so you're holding around your thumbs. You've got your fingers wrapped around your thumbs in each hand, and you're either resting, so you've got this mudra, the fingers wrapped around the thumbs, and you're either resting your hands in this mudra on your belly or on the floor. And just see how it feels. There's this feeling of the thumb being very sort of snug in the fingers, but it's not a tight clenched fist. It's a sort of snug but soft fist. And often, as with when we practice the mudras, there's that sense that we have our hands in a particular organization, and then we try to let everything else soften around that contact of the hands. And in this case, it's the thumb, the fingers around the thumb. And just maybe stay there and breathe for another minute or so and see how that feels. Letting the shoulders feel heavy and relaxed. Feeling the weight of the head, the pelvis, the legs on the floor. Feeling the breath coming in, the breath leaving you. So maybe let that mudra go if you like. Just let your hands soften and relax. And in a moment I'm going to ring the singing bowl. Just, you can stay, you don't need to move until the end of the sound. Oh, thank you, everyone. Thank you. And unmute you.
Thank you.
Oh, thank you. Oh, hang on. Have I done, Rosie? Have I just muted you again? So.
There we go. Thank you. Have a lovely day, everyone.
Oh, it was so lovely. Were you standing in your balance with Atticus? That was so sweet.
Around the whole time, so I thought easier to pick him up.
Yeah. Oh, that's really lovely.
Thank you.
Thank you, Cara. That was lovely.
Guys, see you later, Cara.
Oh, yes. See you
Bye,
later,
everyone.
Bye.
Bye.
Bye. Have a nice week.
Yes.
Yeah, I shall give my love to Addie too. So.
Yeah, will do.
And ours.
Sure.
Bye.
And so Sheila, Sheila's gone. Okay, bye.